Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5 Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to retort to the idea that if a saint said something in their writings, then it somehow always must be true and undermine dogma. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, secutora in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Spiritus Sancti. All right, so sometimes you'll get evangelical apologists making statements like this. Thomas Aquinas didn't believe in the Immaculate Conception, which is one of the four Marian dogmas. Or something like Saint Jerome believed that the Deuterocanonical should not be in the canon. Or even Marian apparitions. Let's think of Saint Catherine Labouré or Our Lady of La Salle saying that there was going to be apostasy. Or some of the visions of St. Catherine Emmerich, or the 3 Days of Darkness, which is relatively popular right now. And they'll say, well, even these people that we revere, didn't believe certain Catholic dogma. What's up with that? It undermines Catholic dogma. No, it doesn't, brothers and sisters in Christ. So what does it mean to be a saint? Now, there's two kind of definitions of saints. We are all saints. Let's just be members of the church. But when we talk about like Saint Thomas Aquinas and so forth, and we have an episode, who's in heaven? The only people that we know are in heaven, aside from Blessed Virgin Mary and the Old Testament patriarchs that were ascended there after Jesus ascended, are saints. So when we proclaim, or when the Holy Mother Church proclaims someone to be a saint, that means we know they're in heaven. Now, a lot of these saints had writings. A lot of these writings are very in line with dogmatic magisterial teaching. Sometimes they're not. I mean, you can look at St. John Chrysostom, you can look at St. Ambrose. These guys had pretty strong anti-Semitic writings. Among their myriad and prolific writing, I mean, look at Chrysostom had a lot of homilies. But a lot of these guys wrote a lot. Augustine wrote a lot, of course. They wrote a lot. And some of their stuff is not applicable and can be just straight out wrong. So when you look at someone like Thomas Aquinas didn't believe that Mary was conceived without original sin. But he did believe, and this is the other part they failed to tell you, is that he did believe that by the time she was born, she did not have original sin. Now, ultimately, what Aquinas believes or doesn't believe doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because he's not the magisterium. He's not the teaching authority of the church. That is his opinion on things. Same for St. Jerome. Now, we have an episode here on the canon. We have 3 or 4 episodes on how the canon of the Bible was determined. Ultimately, Jerome is just giving his opinion on something. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Previous councils, Council of Hippo, Council of Carthage, had already determined that those books were the Deuterochronicle were actually divinely inspired, and the early church had it in their unofficial canon. So saints can be wrong because they're human, right? They're human. They're not Jesus Christ. They can make mistakes. A lot of their writings can be wrong, and that's something that you need to remember. Now, going to the Marian stuff, and we have a couple episodes on Marian apparitions. Now, all these are private revelation. So whatever is in the diary of St. Faustina, whatever is talked about, let's say, in the 3 Days of Darkness, now these are private revelation. Doesn't have to be believed, doesn't mean to be supported. And if you look at the 3 Days of Darkness, a lot of, I would say maybe the far right, are really into the 3 Days of Darkness. And I would remind you guys, that is not part of public revelation. Public revelation ended with the book of Revelation. It is not dogmatic. So just because it's out there and just because a saint had it in their writings, like St. Bridget, she had a lot of mystical visions back in the 14th century. Just because a saint has writings does not necessarily mean that it's on the same level of dogma. No, it's not on the same level of dogma. And that needs to be reminded. So in closing, saints are in heaven. That's why we call them saints. A lot of them have great heroic virtue and have lives that need to be lauded. We just had a previous episode on Dulia. And that needs to be remembered. But remember, not everything they write is close to the level of dogmatic. Now, a lot of the writings of the saints are going to be inconsistent. They're going to be consistent with church teaching. They're not going to pick, Holy Mother Church isn't going to pick somebody who radically departed from church teaching. Somebody look at Origen, look at Tertullian. We have episodes on Tertullian here. They're not saints. They're what we call fathers of the church. They're patristic fathers, but they really deviated at the end, or they left, they were heretical or schismatic or whatever it is. So just understand that, especially with you guys that get really caught up in, let's say, Medjugorje or Our Lady of La Salette. I get it. They believe in apostasy. I get it, but that is not on the level of dogma. That is private revelation and does not need to be believed. In every writing of every saint that's in heaven is not 100% infallible. Guys, post in the comments. Love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Share with others. Until next time, take care. God bless.